All right, number 22. 22 days in on the 31 days of Halloween masks here. Gosh, last night I was so tired doing that video on the Lugosi Dracula and those ghouls that I fell asleep on, like almost smashing my head on the keyboard. I was that tired. And I woke up this morning when the video was live, and I started watching it, and I'm like, oh no, I made a mistake. And it's gonna happen. Like, I'm not perfect. I've said that several times. I made a really small mistake that most of you will never even care about, but there's a couple super fans out there that don't like me because I have a nice mask collection and run around and tell the world I make mistakes and I'm, not very knowledgeable and whatever. So it's hilarious to me that I have haters out there. But so what I did was I was referring to this at first. I was referring to that mask as part of the House of Horrors collection when it's clearly the Hollywood Horrors collection. Okay, those first 6 masks. I got to clear that up. Okay. I was calling it House of Horrors a few times, but then when I put the type on the bottom, the wording, I did correctly do that at least. But man, I was so tired that I don't even care. Like I just had to clarify that though, because there's a couple super fans out there, like I said, that are gonna go crazy. Like, he made a mistake. He thinks he's the most knowledgeable mask guy in the world. No, I don't. And literally, I sit up here sometimes mumbling to myself in my head, like, what am I going to say about this mask? And then it all starts coming to me. So anyway, who cares? So tonight, I'm going to start off with a mask that I totally should have talked about last night. If I wasn't half asleep, I would have. And I'm going to talk about a couple masks that were cast in Plastisol. And the early masks from like the late 60s, the early vinyl masks, I should say, were cast in a different mixture of vinyl known as Plastisol. And those are some of the coolest Don Post masks from that Plastisol era, which is like 1967, 68, probably 69, those late 60s right there. And one of them is a ghoul. I totally should have showed you guys this green ghoul, because this is one of my all-time favorite masks. But the thing is, it had nothing to do with Joel's reissue line of those cool ghouls, as in schools. This is a real deal factory Don Post mask. It's not a new copy. It's a vintage 1967 or 1968 Plastisol Ghoul. And it is, to me, one of the greatest Don Post masks of all time. For a couple reasons. It's just an amazing sculpt, number one. The ghoul is cool, obviously. But, so, what I love about it the most, I mean, of course, the sculpt is amazing. It's so damn cool. It is the color choice on this mask that they used blows me away. First of all, Plastisol masks are lightly cream colored on the inside. It was an older mixture of vinyl, basically. And so they put a brown base coat on this guy, and then they put this like aqua green, color that they sponged on as his skin tone. Like, he was a dead dude, a dead ghoul. But the use of color, that brown base with that aqua greenish sponged on paint color, is just amazing. It looks so cool. Now, I would have never used those two colors in a million years, like on a mask. I would never have thought to do a brown base and then just do this weird you know, dark seafoam green type color, and it just works so well. I mean, look at that. It's such an odd combination of color, and that always grabbed me as being amazing with this mask. He's got one white eyeball that was airbrushed in. He's missing his little pupil. It's kind of worn off. The other one is open, so you can actually see out of the mask when you wear it. This is a real deal, you know, 1967 copy. They put gray on his hair, like light gray paint. Here it says 1967 on the copy right there. I want to add that they also used that brown base on the old style skulls. The brown skulls were a brown base coat as well. And it really works, you know. I think most people out there, if they ever want to paint a mask, they'd probably put black on it right away. I've done it. Never would I have thought to just do a dark brown base like that. And then, you know, it's so simple. This sponged on paint look that it just totally works. It looks super vintage. And between that and the amazing sculpt of this mask, it's one of my favorite. It's one of my all-time favorites. I'm sure a lot of guys will agree out there this is a great mask. These always command a pretty good price, you know. It seems in the hundreds, you know, anywhere from like $250 to $550 usually, depending on how nice they are. But I've seen them go way above that if they're pristine. This is actually a really nice copy, but just a gorgeous mask. And that is seen on the same catalog page with the skull we're going to talk about real quick, the brown skull, and some other masks I'm going to introduce to you now in this episode. So that's about all I'm going to tell you today about this awesome 67 Ghoul. And the reason we didn't talk about it last night is because it really wasn't part of Joel's resurrection, you know, project. This is a real deal late 60s production mask, and it's beautiful. Okay, that, my friends, is a Don Post Vermilion skull. All right, this is the old version, the 1967, 1968 Don Post Vermilion skull. They were cast out of the jumbo skull mold, the first one. This is obviously the earliest sculpt or mold of that skull was in 1967. So this one can be seen in that late 60s ad. There's a black and white ad where they'll show him, and they will show this mask and some other late 60s vinyl masks. And they actually showed both skulls. They'll show the regular skull, which was brown, and then they'll show the Vermilion. And the Vermilion, the difference is the solid eye sockets. All right, they were all cast like that out of the mold, but they would trim them on regular skulls, paint them brown or whatever. But the Vermilion, they left them in, cut out the hole for the eye so you could see through it. See that? And painted them red. There's a few different variations as far as paint schemes with these old Vermilions. I've owned a couple of these guys over the years, and to me, this is hands down one of the greatest Don Post masks of all time. Mainly because they're so strange and they're so rare. These have shot up in value over the years, and anytime you see the late 60s Vermilion, it's going to be the jumbo size. I think I just said that. It's going to be the big size skull, because there wasn't a bunch of different skull molds in the beginning. It wasn't until about 78 that they started using a bunch of different skull molds. And you'll see tiny ones, you'll see jumbo ones, different variations, a couple different ones with different patterns on the teeth. So, but in the beginning, they were all pretty much that big jumbo skull. They're all going to be about the same, look the same anyway. But just a weird looking mask. They all look very old because they're all Plastisol in 67, okay? They ended up re-releasing the Vermilion in 1976 and 77, but they were smaller and they were vinyl, but these early Plastisol skulls are so cool. And I think one in tattered shape just hit in, what the hell did it bring? $1,900 on eBay, possibly. I'd have to look at the auction, but pretty crazy. So these are 3 amazing early Plastisol, you know, casting masks. I shouldn't say early, I should say late 60s, if you want to technically, if you want to break it down technically, late 60s Don Post masks. Super cool. And all 3 of those guys, like I said, appear in the same ad when they came out. Man, I have a lot of masks, so many that sometimes I totally forget if I even sold one or not. I was going to show you one more important Plastisol mask from that late 60s era that was on the same page, that sale page, as those others. But I think I sold it at some point. It's gone. My late 60s Rainbow Carlisle. It's crazy. It's not here at all, which means I must have sold it, which is surprising because that was a cool mask. Anyway, so we're going to move on to something else that's really cool. It's moving up from that Plastisol era to the regular vinyl era of masks. We're going to go forward 10 years into 77. They re-released the Vermilion skull with the solid eye sockets in vinyl, in regular vinyl. They used a couple of different molds on these. There was at least 2 separate skull molds used for these Vermilions that I know of after studying these skulls. They're a little smaller than the jumbo original, but still decent size. So what I'm going to show you is not only the mask, I'm going to show you a really rare sight that I don't think anyone else has showed anyone in the hobby something like this when it comes to vintage like 70s and 80s masks. What I have here, I have the copy of the mask, okay, the production mask made in 76, which is really rare. The 70s Vermilion is probably just as rare as that late 60s one. Not only do I have that, but I have a factory blank out of the metal mold, like a black blank that they used to paint up those red skulls. And besides that, I have the metal mold they came out of. So here is a pretty rare sight in this hobby. Here you've got the metal roto casting mold for the Don Post skulls, and it is that 1976. I'm going to show you. Well, you probably can't see the date on the back of this mold. Inside though, it's crazy. It is, hold on, I gotta be very careful because this mold is very heavy, and this pedestal is kind of made of wood and foam. I used to make haunted house props, so I'm being very careful here. So 1976 blank out of a 76 Vermilion mold. This mask is 1976 Vermilion, okay? This Vermilion that you see here came out of this exact mold. It's crazy. How do I know? Because they actually have different ways they wrote 1976 on the back of these things. Some are handwritten one way, and another one's written in a different type of font, and there's only like 4 different ones used. It's crazy. But this mold is for that mask. Said this is a very rare thing to see. Original metal mold, original factory blank out of metal mold, original fully painted production mask. That's how you get this. Starting with that, casting one of these, trimming it, painting it into that. So pretty darn cool. The outside of this mold is going to look really rough, you know, and gnarly looking, but the inside is super detailed. You know, you will get a nice, beautiful casting when you pull out that vinyl after it cures and cools down. See the black vinyl. And this thing is, it's a little dirty from plaster. I was using it for a project that I I was doing with my buddy, and we got so busy, the whole project got set aside. I was making jumbo skulls, and those of you that keep asking me, yes, I still want to do it. No, I've had no time. And I have a witch I want to produce, a witch mask. I haven't had time for anything. But hopefully that will come in time. I'm letting down a lot of people by not making those masks. I told them I was, and I never did yet. But molds were made, so things are ready. But besides that, this is definitely a really, really cool thing. And if you made that Halloween mask show at the Lethal Amounts Gallery in California, was it 5, 6, 7 years ago? I don't remember, but you would have seen this set on display. I shipped them to Mikey Rotella, and they had this on display in that gallery. And at the time, this just needs to be washed off. It just says plaster on it. See that? So it'll be nice and clean. But this by itself is rare. This is a factory vinyl pull out of a metal mold. You know, that is not a modern copy by any means. That is a vintage pull out of a metal mold. The mask alone is very rare, but having the mold, a blank, and the mask is pretty awesome. And I don't think you'll see this in any other collections. And those of you wondering why they call that skull a vermilion and the old one a vermilion, vermilion's a color, a pigment. Okay, it's made from mercury sulfide, which is also commonly known as cinnabar, and vermilion is a red pigment, so that's why they call them the vermilion skulls. Later on, in 77 and 78, I guess people were complaining that it was very hard to see out of those holes they would cut out, so there are technically vermilion masks still with the whole eye cut out. I nicknamed them the blood skull for years because I swear I saw them called a blood skull somewhere in some piece of Don Post literature somewhere, whether it was 80s, 90s, I don't know, but I saw this vermilion or this blood skull word. So I nicknamed the blood skull. People still call them blood skulls to this day. However, after talking with Kathy Tharp, they still called them vermilions. It just never went into a catalog in 78. So they showed these for sale, but they never technically called it a vermilion with that open eye red skull version that most guys out there will call the blood skull. It's all my fault. But I mean, what else were you going to call it? Red skull with empty eye sockets? No, just call it the blood skull. I don't care. So that's technically also a vermilion, but it was never cataloged as a vermilion. Just a little tidbit of information that I learned much later in my collecting years. Okay, I have to pause here for a minute and make a special announcement. So somebody out there who I know them through Facebook, they were watching my videos and saw me talking about a mask that I loved as a kid. It meant a lot to me. One of my parents wore one, you know, at a costume party in the late 70s. And it was that evil unicorn. It was the Evil Unicorn by Be Something Studio. And I was explaining how I got a beautiful brand new copy from the original mold through the guys at Sigoni. And it's somewhere around here. And I was going on and on about, you know, my love for that thing through my childhood up till today. And I was explaining how original copies usually are pretty messed up. You know, I've had some originals over the years, but usually they start just deteriorating under the chin, or the horn has holes in it. So a Facebook mask collector that goes by the name of Joe Nobil, I don't want to ruin that, hope I'm pronouncing that right, reached out to me through Facebook and says, hey, I saw your video and I found a beautiful Evil Unicorn for sale, an original. And it was on a real obscure for sale site I never even heard of. So I would have never seen this thing. Sent me the link, and I bought it. And I just want to stop this video, do a special thank you, because look at this thing. It is like perfect. It is an incredible, original, late 70s or early 80s evil unicorn. And it looked good in the pictures, right? But when this thing showed up, I was like, my God, it's perfect. It's one of the nicest originals I've ever seen. You know, besides being around in the 70s and 80s, seeing them. But the paint is perfect. The latex, I mean, it's aged, but I mean, it's still super nice. Look at that. Look underneath. There ain't a crack. There's no chipping away at the latex. I mean, it's all super nice condition. This thing had to be stored, stuffed like this, for a long, long, long time. And some of these get so distorted, these evil unicorns are scrunching in the face, and then they get, you know, hardened, and they just look all stupid looking. Honestly, Joe, this is one of the nicest copies I've ever seen, you know, in modern times. And I can't thank you enough. I want to do something nice for you, because that you totally passed on something that I am truly freaking out over. I'm probably going to try to foam fill this one soon. Like I was talking about in the other videos with the Be Something masks, I want to foam fill this one and preserve this one and display it next to that green fang face I showed you guys. You do not see them looking like this, and I want to make sure it stays like this. Let's look and see if there's a tag inside that shows the date. I'm dying to know what year this one was produced. Oh man, look at that. 1979. That is so cool. Why not? One more look at that evil unicorn next to the modern pull from that Zagoni mold. But that is an original. Just so cool. I'm going to close out the video showing you one of my favorite Don Post masks of all time, and I really mean this. Mainly because of the sculpt. It's hands down one of the coolest masks ever, and it reminds me of a Scooby-Doo villain. Just incredible. I'm pretty sure Pat Newman sculpted the old Carlisle mask in 1967. By far one of my favorite masks ever. It came out over several different years. Started in 67. In the late 60s, it was a larger Plastisol version with slight rainbow colors on him. In 1976, it became a really rainbowed version, smaller, cast in brown vinyl, with a stronger rainbow paint job. Everyone calls it the Rainbow Carlisle. But in 78, it debuted as a glow-in-the-dark version, carried on through the 79 catalog, I think in the 1980 as well. But I have a brand new unworn copy here. I'm gonna show you this mask. How cool is that? This is a pristine, unworn, tagged copy. Very rare to see a Carlisle new and tagged. I've only seen this one. This is the only one I've ever seen unworn like this in a glow version. But this tag tells me this one was made in 1982. 82, 80, yeah, 81, 82 probably. 83 they switched to the blue and white care tags. But talk about an amazing sculpt. Like, look at that dude. I just think that is a killer design when it comes to character design. It just looks so like cartoonish, Scooby-Doo, Ghoul, bad guy, whatever. And Carlisle is one of the greatest Don Post masks ever sculpted. And I'm not saying it's like a super detailed, you know, amazing sculpture. It's the features of the face and just the way this thing was done. It just I've always thought it stood above the rest. Like it stood out as one of the greatest sculpts of all time through Don Post Studios. And I'm sure a lot of guys out there will agree. But this is the 78, 79 glow version. Carried into the early 80s, of course. But this one was definitely cast and painted around 1982. I think we should turn the lights off and do a live glow-in-the-dark video and see how it picks up on this camera. I've got a superior blacklight here. Anytime you're going to do glow-in-the-dark pictures or video with your masks, grab a blacklight and it'll make it super intense. And it's not the best, you know, lighting to be putting on your masks, but we're only doing it for a minute, so you know, some people may freak out, but I'm not. So here we go. Holy cow. Super intense. I'm not sure how this is going to show on the computer, but man, lots of glow paint on this copy. And as you can see, especially with the black light, it's going to glow like crazy. The Glow Carlisle from Don Post Studios. You guys are probably peeping back there on the back shelf. So check this out. Since we got the light, look at those Topstone masks. You see that? They've got paint details on them that glow under black light. Is that cool or what? Look at that pirate and look at that Frankenstein with those bolts. And with this light off, you don't see like special colors there or anything. That's the cool part. Even that Topstone mummy there has a glow-in-the-dark spot on its forehead. Like, were they doing that intentionally so you'd be seen at parties? Look at the late 60s mummy up there. Oh my god, it's so cool. He's glowing. He's got a little spot on his forehead. Just it's cool once you start looking around here at night with the lights off, huh? All kinds of weird looks. I'm actually mounting colored lights and black lights in this room so I can flick them on once in a while. And we may as well talk about that dude here real quick. That is a custom piece I had the Tharps make for me. I had Rob Tharp make me a Mummy Bee complete glow-in-the-dark. This was my idea. I'm sure other people had them made after the fact. I remember telling Billy Kirkus, I go, dude, we were on this kick making glow masks with the Tharps. I go, think about that. All the cracks of the mummy, you know, will be paint, but then the glow paint will be on the outside of that thing, and it should look badass. Even the hair is full of glow on that thing. But that's a glow mummy set with hands. I'm sure someone else probably had them make one after seeing this, but I totally came up with that idea. And it came out amazing. That thing glows like crazy. There, now the light is gone. I turned the light away, and you can see the true look of that glow. Give him a little more light real quick. Take it away. See that? That's what it looks like glowing by itself. We will do the Carlisle now. Hang on. There's that Carlisle glowing by itself. Pretty cool. All right, this was number 22 out of 31 days. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm getting excited for the last two episodes. Like I said, I got cool stuff in mind for that. I may start filming ahead of time because I want the last couple to be pretty special. And yes, I will be doing a video on the life-size figures at some point. I'm not sure if they'll be part of the 31 days of masks. They might be. We'll tackle that when the time comes, and thanks for watching.